Welcome back to the virtual fold-along series from Minnesota Center for Book Arts. If you're just tuning in and this is your first video, where have you been? No, I'm just kidding. But this is video 11 and it's also our last video. So if you are new to the series, please head to our website, mnbookarts.org, where you can see all of the previous videos, as well as learn about us, see adult classes that we're offering, youth camps this summer, some of which I am teaching, as well as lots of other good resources. For 25 years, MCPA has been connecting the community with artists and book arts through exhibitions, access to materials and equipment, events, classes, and artist support. It's a wonderful nonprofit, so I would encourage you to learn more about us. My name is Madeline Garcia, and I'm the lead teaching artist. Is that it? Yeah, I think so. It's been a while. We've been staying home because of COVID, so these past few weeks I have been leading these classes online instead of teaching kids in person at the Book Arts Center. So today, for our last session, we are going to be making a dosado book, which looks something like this. It is a sewn book with two different signatures. So if you can see here, there's two different sets of pages. I believe in French this book means back to back, and that explains the look and the format of it. I love this structure because I think it's wonderful for storytelling. You can tell two sides to one story with your writing or your content, but also with the structure of the book. And there's a rich history about this book too. It dates back to 16th century, which is very cool. So hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. To make this book, you will need a few things. You will need one 4x11 sheet of paper, and this will function as the cover. And then you'll want to have 8 or 10 4x5.5 sheets of paper here. These will be the pages of our book. And you will also want to have two 12-inch pieces of string to sew the book together. And then as far as tools, there's kind of a lot. You will want to have a ruler and a pencil so that we can mark out and measure our book. You'll want to have scissors, a bone folder, which is a bookmaker's tool. If you don't have one on hand, you could use a butter knife or a popsicle stick or something smooth. You'll want to have 4 paper clips. You will also want to have a needle to sew with, and I recommend an embroidery needle. It's not that sharp, it's pretty dull, and it's thick enough where we can bring our thread all the way through the pages. You'll also want to have an awl, which is a bookmaker's tool to poke holes in paper. If you don't have one on hand, you could use a thumbtack. And lastly, though this isn't necessary, we recommend having a sponge so that when you're poking the holes, you're not poking into your hand or your table. I always try and have people protect their tables with all of my tips. So that's what you'll need. And feel free to ask questions in the comments or pause if you're folding along with me. The first thing we'll do is get out our 4x11 sheet of paper for our cover, and our ruler and our pencil. So we will start by measuring 4 inches from one of the shorter sides. So I'll just line up 4 inches here, and then I'll make a light mark 4 inches in. Oh wow, I did it so light that I didn't even see it. I'll just do a replay here. Wonderful. The next thing I'll do is line my ruler up on that 4-inch mark so that there is 4 inches away from my ruler to the edge. I'm going to hold that ruler in place and I'm going to lift this 4-inch flap of paper up and bring it straight to that ruler. And then I'm going to run my finger along the table so that this 4-inch tab of paper is creased. Should look something like this. And then you can fold it down all the way and use your bone folder to secure the fold. You'll do that by holding your bone folder with 4 fingers on one side and your thumb on the other side, holding it just like so, and placing the fold in the center of your bone folder. And you can go up and down about 2 times. You'll have something that looks like this. This should be 4 inches. You can open it back up and flip it over so that it looks like so. And now we'll do the exact same thing on the other side. So we'll measure 4 inches in. We'll leave a little mark there and do some scoring. So just sliding our fingers underneath and running them back and forth. And then we can bone fold this down. This, after you've done these 2 scores or folds, you should have something that resembles a Z. And this is perfect. You can kind of start to see where the signatures, where the pages will go in these folds. We do have them a little bit longer so that we can have tabs to fold around the book, like you see in this example. The tabs are not necessary, but I like them. And if you are working with a bigger size, you would have to do a little more calculation about how many inches to fold in for this book. So now that we have our cover folded, we can set that aside and we can start to fold the pages of our book. These are the 4 by 5.5 sheets of paper. So we do something called the hold and fold technique here. If you've watched this video series, you're very familiar with it at this point. But essentially, you're just holding the sheets down in position while you fold them in half. And I'm folding them in half, having them start in a landscape position. So folding them hamburger style. And I'll slide my finger over to crease and I'll just bring it up and down. So sliding over, up and down, and then using my bone folder again. So I'll do this for all of the pages. Just folding them in half. And I went ahead and used this nice cream, this nice light tan paper, but you can do this with any color. I do recommend using a thinner paper for these pages, or your dosado might be a little too thick where it won't be able to close. So I actually have some pre-folded ones I made ahead of time. But after you've folded all your sheets in half, you'll just open them up and nest them inside of each other so that all of the folded edges are right inside of each other. And you'll make 2 signatures, each with 4 or 5 pages in them. And the next thing we'll do is, one at a time, position them into the book. So we'll go in either of these valleys here. So I'll just start with one. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of space around the pages. The reason I did that was to protect the pages. This is just like a hardcover book where the covers are bigger to protect the pages inside. So I'll first make sure all the pages are right on top of each other. And then I'm going to position the pages so that there's an equal amount of cover on either side of them. And then I'm going to take my paper clips and put my paper clips around the cover and the pages to secure them in place. So I've started to do that here, and I'll do the bottom side of the pages as well. This is really important because you won't want the pages to move around when you're sewing. So you should have something that looks like this. I have a paper clip on either side of the center fold. The next thing we'll do is mark out where we want to make our holes to sew. We'll be stitching this book together with a pamphlet stitch, a 3-hole pamphlet stitch. So I'll put one of the dots, which will soon be a hole in the center of the center fold, so right there. And then I'll want to put the second and the third dot, the second and the third hole, about 3/4 from the edge of the cover, 3/4 of an inch, or 1/2 inch from the edge of this paper. So it doesn't have to be exact. I always am an advocate for eyeballing things because I like when things are perfect. It emphasizes that they're handmade. However, please feel free to use your ruler if you would like to. So it's a little hard to see, but we have one dot here, and one here. And then we will get out our sponge, if you have it, and our awl, or awl substitute. And we'll just want to poke the holes straight down. If you do them slightly at an angle, it'll make the sewing part very difficult. And we want to make sure that they go through all of the pages. So there's hole 1, and it's coming out right on this spine, right on this fold. That's wonderful. I'll do the same for hole 2 and 3. The next thing we'll do is start to sew the book. So I'm going to grab one of my 12-inch pieces of string, and I'll grab my needle. And, oh, success. You'll thread your needle, but I will caution you from knotting. I don't normally ever knot my thread when I'm sewing books. Mostly because I don't want to kneel with the knot, but also because I do it in a way where it's not necessary. So what you'll do is you'll start on the inside of the pages, and you'll start by bringing your needle through the center hole out to the back cover. And when you get about this way through, you'll just take this tail and tuck it under a paper clip. And this functions as a safety so that you don't pull your thread all the way out. And undo all of your stitching. Our needle's now on the back side of the book, and we'll go through one of the other holes, it doesn't matter which one, and we'll delicately bring it through back to the center. And now we'll go through the last hole, which we haven't sewn through at this point, so we're just going to hop over that center hole. Bring it to that last one, and we should be on the outside cover now. And then the last thing we'll do is bring it through that center hole. And at this point, we can unlatch our other side of our string. So we have 2 loose ends here. Before we tie a knot, it's really important that we make sure that each edge of the thread is on either side of this center piece of thread. And that is so that when we tie our knot off, this center piece of thread that runs through here is also in that knot. So I'll just tug a little bit to make sure the string is taut. And then I'm going to tie a double knot I wouldn't want to do more than 2 knots because the knot would be too big and the book would not be able to close. I like to leave a long tail here, and part of that is because if for some reason my knots were to come undone, I would still have some string to retie it. So I wouldn't recommend cutting the tail all the way off, but if you want to trim it a little bit so it looks like so, then that's wonderful. I can take my paper clips off right now and move on to my other signature on the other side of the book. So I'll move a little bit quicker this time, since we mostly know what we're doing. But getting the pages in position, paper clipping them down. And for my friends watching who are younger and still getting the hang of paper clips, something that I keep in mind is that one side of the paper clip has 2 loops and the other has 1 loop. You want to use the side with 2 loops and treat it as a mouth. So one part of it being the top jaw and one part of it being the bottom jaw. And the paper clip will eat the paper so that the top jaw is on one side and the bottom jaw is on the other side. The next thing I'll do is mark out where my 3 holes will be, and I want to punch them straight down. If you're using a thumbtack with a really thin needle, you might want to wiggle the thumbtack around to ensure you have lots of room to bring your thread through. Alright, round 2. Can I get it on the first try? Score! Okay, needle is threaded. I'm starting on the inside of this book, this pamphlet stitch here. I'm bringing my thread to the outside, and I'm going to tuck this little tail here under the paper clip. I'll then go through one of the other holes. Oh my gosh, it came undone from the paper clip. So I can't stress enough to be delicate when you are sewing, because you don't want to pull everything that you've sewn out. And then I'll go to one of the other holes. I'll bring my needle back to the side of the pages. I'll skip over to that last hole, bring it all the way through to the back, bring it back to that center hole, and then I'll want to make sure that there is a tail of thread on either side of the thread that runs through. So it'll look something like this. I'll then tie a knot here, and one more for good measure. And I'll trim my tail a little bit. And that is essentially it. There's one last step, which is to fold the tabs over. So right now we have something that looks like this. We have these tabs that stick out. I'm just going to fold them over. You could also measure this out, but there's one side, and then I'll just go to the other side, fold it over, and always you can use your foam folder to secure this. And we have a dosado book. Awesome. Now I do want to show you a few examples, as always. I have one over here that I made the other day, and one side says sunny thoughts, and the other side says gloomy thoughts. So this type of book could be a way to organize your thoughts. I was thinking for this book that I just made, one side could be sketches and one side could be writing. I have another example here, and this one is much bigger. And it has Velcro. So when you're making your own, you can definitely add just some Velcro tabs here. I like this one because the tabs are a little bigger as well. So we have pages on this side and this side as well. And this size is really great. I think this is just 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper. I have one more here. And we have the pages on this side. And this is the same stitch we just did, a 3-hole pantlook stitch. And the other side says swamp food. And we actually have some pop-outs here. So you could do just one signature, one pantlook stitch on one side, and then put a pop-out, or just do an image on the other side. This one just has a 6-section spine attached to it that the author has glued cut paper onto. But you could also have a portrait pop here. You could have a tower pop here. You could really use all of the skills that you've honed and learned throughout this whole series and apply them here. And I have one last example, which is a hardcover dosado book. So if you wanted, you could use thicker paper and cover that to make this book more durable. Because this is the last episode of this series, I am asking that if you wanted to share your books one last time, I would encourage you to take a photo of all of the books that you've made throughout this series. We would love to see them. We've made a lot of book structures together, and I think that's worth celebrating. I'm really going to miss being with you all every Friday morning, my time. I realize folks are all throughout the world watching, but I will cherish it and remember this time and all the books we've made together. I do want to let you know that there will be another video series that will come out this summer that I'm working on. Don't want to spoil too much, but it's going to be awesome. This series and all of the 11 videos of it will continue to be free and available on our website, mnbookarts.org. If you have the capacity right now to support NCBA and want to give thanks, that would be greatly appreciated. You can do so on our website. We are asking that you would also consider donating to another community organization as well, especially one centered around racial justice, and I have linked a few in the information about this video. So thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure, and let's just sign off. Thanks.